Welcome to Cryptid Crossroads 505. I'm Larry.
And I'm Vince.
Welcome to the show.
Where we talk all things cryptid,
Sasquatch,
aliens,
hauntings,
and anything paranormal you would like to share with us.
You can reach us at cryptidcrossroads505@gmail.com.
So settle in, open your mind, and enjoy the show.
Hey, welcome to Cryptid Crossroads 505. We're back in the studio doing it once again for you. I'm here with my co-host Vince. Vince, give him a shout out.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the CCR 505 studios.
That's right. We're here. But before we get started, we want to thank you for our listeners who have listened to the recent episodes we uploaded. Tell a friend. We welcome everybody. And as always, you could reach us at cryptidcrossroads505@gmail.com. That's one word. And we want to hear your story. And as always, before we get started, our traditional toast to you.
But before we do our toast, I just wanted to mention our Facebook page, and we'd like to thank all of you. We've had a lot of new members lately. We want all of you to join because that's where we put out the content that we talk about.
That's right.
Now we're not real social media savvy, so we're not on other platforms yet. My daughter was just here talking about other platforms we should get on, but we might need some assistance.
Well, we're not on some of those social medias, but I tell you where we are at. So you can now find us back on Amazon Music, Spotify, TuneIn, iHeartRadio, and I'm working on Apple and one other new one that they added. So soon, if you want just the audio, you can listen on the go there.
Right.
So,
or
and
in YouTube if you want to see our ugly mugs.
That's right. And for those of you that are on the Facebook page, I'll be pushing out audio and YouTube. So just click on it and you'll see us.
So we're on all these other platforms, but on Facebook we have audio and video plus other things we upload. Some of our new members have uploaded stories.
That's
A lot
right.
of interesting content, and that's one of the reasons I wanted a Facebook page,
Right.
so we could interact, because there's a lot of people who will interact but don't want to call in and tell their stories.
Right. And man, if you want to call in and tell your story, let's do it. So we gave you the email. That's how you reach us, and we'll set up a time and we'll get together. And we do want to hear your story.
We do. And
all right.
here's to you.
To you. Cheers.
Cheers. Now, what we're drinking is apple cinnamon whiskey.
It's all theatrical. It's really just apple juice.
It's just apple juice, but like they say, it's all in your head.
All right. We do it for the theatrical effect. Anyway, we're going to get started tonight. And we thought we would talk a little bit about our favorite topic, Sasquatch.
Oh, I thought you were going to say women.
Well, we talk about that off camera.
Well, we could talk about female Sasquatch.
Okay, well, see, that's still women.
Yeah. Tell them about one of the newest videos it's new to us.
Right.
Why don't you give them a little insight on that?
Well, I sent my brother a video that's supposedly a short video of someone who captured a Sasquatch going into a tree. So they're basically coming off the ground and getting airborne into a tree. And we were just talking about that. And I don't know, we take everything with a grain of salt. I'll send them everything that I watch so that we could critique it together.
Right.
But, there again, my thing is if this guy had that in his view, he should have got a clearer picture.
Right. But, in his defense, if he was on a cell phone, because some cell phones have really good cameras.
And some
not so
shitty.
good.
And it depends on the distance, because I have a really good cell phone, but if I'm too far away, it's not good quality either.
Right.
So I think he should have ran up closer, though.
Right. Now, if you want to see it, it's on our Facebook page,
Right.
or you could also watch it on YouTube. It's called Carson River Sasquatch.
Right. And I sent that to my brother because anything that I could find, or that he could find, we're going to share. Just because that's what we do, and we want to know about these creatures so much. And like I said, I watched that video and I was like, I'm going to send it to him and let him
Right.
form his own opinion.
Right. Now, we watch as many of these videos as we can. It is for entertainment, but it's also research because we want to know. And, we've watched the breakdowns on a lot of these videos, and the people who do breakdowns, they've come up with a pretty good way of telling if they're fake or not.
Right.
Like the body limb ratio to the body and stuff
Right.
like that,
And-
legs to arms.
and,
And it makes sense. So when we watch videos, of course, we watch with an open mind because we know not everybody carries an HD camera. So we kind of look for things we could pick out, from what we've learned from other people.
Right. And you talk about video breakdowns. Now, I think MK Davis does he does a good job of breaking down the videos and really analyzing whether, the limb structure or the knee movement, how all that, if it's a true Squatch or not.
Right. Now, if you want to watch MK's work, he does a lot of good work, and it's not only Sasquatch. He's into the Nephilim.
Right.
Actually, I sent my brother a picture of him next to a 12-foot skeleton, and I told my brother, look at that. Could you imagine running into a 12-foot Sasquatch?
And you may think that that's not big, but when you look at a skeleton that is actually 12 feet tall, now you got to remember that it won't be a skinny bone structure, because something that big, the bones have to support the muscle and the mass of it. So those bones are going to be thick. So anything that big is going to have some mass to it. And when I looked at that, MK Davis looked like a midget.
Well, we won't say that.
Well,
It looked like a kid holding his dad's hand.
it was.
Now, if you want to look at MK Davis's work, which he does good work, he does a lot of work on the Patterson Gimlin film as far as cleaning it up and getting good pictures.
Right.
I believe on YouTube he goes under Green Wave.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but you could also find him on Facebook under MK Davis. And,
Right.
he's a hell of a guy. I've messaged him before, and he'll usually respond to your messages or whatever.
Right. And he's done some good work, especially on the Patterson Gimlin film. I think he's one of the ones that really put the time in. And, the same conclusion that everyone that puts a lot of time into it, it's inconclusive. It's like
Right.
you can't debunk it.
Right.
That is genuine footage of a creature that's in the wilderness.
Right. Now, another one on YouTube I like to watch is Thinker Thunker.
Yeah, Thinker Thunker does a good job.
He's really
too.
good. He does more of a breakdown with the length of the limbs, and he goes into
Right.
depth. He even goes so far as to, like, if there's a Sasquatch video, he'll try to get a human to mimic the same things.
Right. Yeah, he does good work too.
Yeah, there was one video in particular that was sent to him, and he worked on. It was a Sasquatch walking, and he stepped down an embankment like 5 feet,
Right.
just one step. There's no way a human could do that.
No way at all without falling on your face.
Right.
And yeah, he does some good
But
work.
anyway, those are two guys that we like to watch because they do really credible work, and they're really good at what they do.
That's right. So we're giving them a shout out and
Right.
pushing their work. So
But back to that video,
check them out.
The Carson River. It's pretty interesting because the first part of the video, he's just walking through the camp, and the action comes at the end. He zooms into something. It looks like it's a figure. It's dark, it's not a very good video. But as he zooms away, it looks like it lifts one arm and pulls itself up in the tree. Now,
Right.
if something could pull a body that big in the tree, something is very strong.
I mean, really strong. Yeah, and I was telling my brother not only about that video, but I recently watched. It's part of the Small Town Monsters series that's on YouTube. Now, I've watched a lot of Small Town Monsters videos for anything from Mothman to Bigfoot. Well, in this video, they go to Fort Hood, and they go to all these famous sightings where Sasquatch has been seen by people ever since the early 70s on through today, basically. And it was interesting, the territory that they visited and how they go about looking for the creature. You know, like some of the swampland, they make their rounds looking for footprints and whatnot. And it's basically how most people do it, looking for evidence. But what caught my attention is the area where they investigated. And, you know, they basically said it's like trying to find not a needle in a haystack, finding a needle in an alfalfa field.
Wow.
And because there's just so much rugged territory up in that area, it makes me believe that these creatures can stay elusive in that area because of the terrain. And it's not easy terrain to navigate.
Right. Now that brings me back to the area we go to.
Right.
Now, we've found prints in the past. Snow had a lot to do with it. And I've even found a partial print in the mud. But where we go, we've gotten so much rain this year. It's very green. There's grass everywhere. So you ain't going to find no prints,
No.
nothing.
No, and the grass isn't deep enough to leave like imprints.
Right. Now, I subscribe to a different theory. I know all these people go out and walk around at night looking for Sasquatch, and you got to remember these things see probably just like we see in the daylight at night.
And it's the theory is that they because they have eye shine like animals, so that their eyes have adapted to the blue spectrum, which is at night.
Right.
So you're right. They could see clear as day at night, as just like we see in the day.
Right.
And that's probably what gives them the advantage for quick mobility at night, as to where some people say, I looked up, it was there 1 second, the next minute it was gone. And that's in pitch dark. And you know,
Right.
they have to have night vision to maneuver that quick around anything.
Right. Which brings me to my next point. I always said that you can't find Sasquatch. Sasquatch is going to find you.
Right.
Now, we could walk around all night long and we probably wouldn't find nothing, maybe hear something, but we've had our best, I guess, luck. That's what it is.
Right.
When we sit in our campground, and the darker the better, but we just do what we do. You know, we talk amongst ourselves, and like every encounter I've had, or even the last time when we took our brother, we were just being ourselves, and, you know, all of a sudden something hit the truck. And
Right.
that's why I say that they're going to find you. And if they don't want you to see them, you're not going to know they're there. Because every time this has happened, especially with my first encounter, I didn't know they were there until I started seeing eye shine. And even then, I didn't really put two and two together until they started screaming. And then I still didn't put anything really together till the next day.
Right. And like this documentary I just saw, they were saying that the encounter that one of the, I guess he's not part of the crew, but it's one of the participants who was doing some investigation with them. He talked about a certain area that they went to, and he had his encounter, but they were just up hiking around. They made a wrong turn, so they were actually looking for a trail that was supposed to take them to a lake. Well, rather than going right, they should have made the left at Albuquerque.
Like Bugs Bunny.
That's right. So they made a left, and it took them off trail. So they were kind of lost. And, you know, one of their friends, they said, was deadly fearful of bears. So he took pots and pans, and he kept banging them as they were hiking, thinking it's going to chase them away. Well, his other friends told him, you know, you got to stop that. Understand one thing. The bears are just as terrified of you. They're going to avoid you like the plague. So you don't need to make all that noise. Long story short, all that banging with the pans and the clacking and clinging, that night, one person woke up because he heard, like, let's say wood knocks, but like two rocks just clacking together from a distance, and it got closer and closer and clacking. Well, he heard it, so he sat up and he just slowly unzipped his tent and looked out. And he really didn't hear nothing. Well, they got up the next morning, went about their business. Nightfall comes, they're in their tents again. It returns, and he hears the clacking. This time it gets closer to the camp, so he unzips his tent. This time he sees right by this big, like a redwood tree. I mean, the tree that he described it, the trunk, I mean, it's huge. And he said this thing stood, it was about 10 feet from his description. It stood there swaying back and forth, just swaying back, looking out. And he said he noticed it in the dark. And he said when he made eye contact with it and he said it saw him, he said it just gradually turned around and walked off. And that's the reason they went back to this one particular campsite.
Kind of like us.
Yes. So they were hoping lightning struck twice.
Right.
And I found that interesting that this creature came back not only one night, but twice. He was intrigued with what these people were doing around the camp.
Right.
And I guess it was the banging of the pans that really drew him in.
Yeah.
So,
and when I had my encounter, I think what really, like I said, the first one that screamed, I thought was a female just by the tone of the voice.
right.
And I think what intrigued that one is I had 2 young girls with me, and my son, he was young too. So she may have, mother instinct or just curiosity. Because when the male that was talking and shaking the tree, when he walked off, the female stood there the whole time.
And she could have been intrigued, and why we don't know. We'll never know. But like some of the theories that we've talked about with that is, could it have been a mother that lost her young one?
Right, which gets kind of creepy.
It does get creepy, but I mean that happens with humans.
Right, but every time we go to our spot, something happens. Whether it's a UFO, paranormal, Bigfoot, something, or just a crazy owl.
Great, right?
But it's weird because especially the last time we went there, actually the last 2 times when we had our oldest brother and something moved the truck.
Right.
And then the last time we went, when we were just parked in the dark and I heard footsteps out my window.
Yeah.
And, I tell people these stories because especially now that we got the podcast, they all want to talk to me. They don't want to come on the show for some reason, but they'll tell me their stories and they ask me about what I have going on up there. And I tell them that stuff. And a lot of them said, well, maybe they're getting used to you. That's why they're coming closer.
Could be, or they just want to kick our ass and get us out of there.
Right. Well, that's the theory behind some other Sasquatch sites, like on Facebook, whatever, the habituation site, where you get them used to being there. And
right. And it could be possible. Let's talk about one person that became so acquainted with them that they supposedly spoke to him.
That was Sasquatch, Ontario?
That's right, up in Canada. And he supposedly would have interactions with a particular Sasquatch.
Right, and they would even mimic like names. And
right, and they would call them, and they would have like little back and forth. I call it like toddler conversations because
right, just an interaction.
And he would go back several consistently, and they'd be there. They'd meet him there.
Right,
he had possible
a spot on the property where he would camp.
Right,
and then when he would go back, it was weird because there's some video on YouTube. There'd be handprints on his car, or sometime they'd even leave him a gift.
Right,
it's like I don't know. It looks like branches woven into a little ball, and sometimes inside the ball was a marble.
Right. Where they got the marble, I don't know, but
I'm sure they, like we talked about in the Hamas, when it's locked up, they have free run of it. So, or even at night, I'm sure they go through the trash or old campsites, whatever people left behind.
I'm sure they do. But it was interesting to hear his conversations. Now, I took it with a grain of salt, but I'm not going to call him a liar because, like we say, we weren't there.
Now that you mentioned that, there's one episode, I had it saved on my phone, I don't have it anymore, but Sasquatch Ontario, when he was having his Conversations, there's one audio clip that he caught. Well, it's like a 14-minute long thing, but there's one section where it's almost dead on to what I heard that night.
Yeah.
I should try to look that up and find it, because that will give that's more of a description than I could ever give, because that's almost right on with the talking and the whoop at the end.
Yeah, we need to find that so we could play that for you all.
Yeah.
But I just thought it was interesting that he had interactions like that. So, and like they say, there's different types of people. So there's different types of Sasquatches. You got your aggressive ones that just they want to escort you out of their territory, and you have some that maybe don't want to be so aggressive and don't have malicious intentions, and they're just curious about you, just as curious as you're about them.
Right, and I think that's true to a certain degree, but I think some of it depends on if they have young in the area.
I think it does too, but I think it does. Here's my theory on that, because we've heard some stories from, like we've talked about on our other podcast, about these creatures kind of bringing sustenance to people that were in need. You know, the old
Right.
Navajo lady that told her story.
Right.
And I think that clan, that race of Sasquatches, they were more in tune with humans because maybe they've been around the tribe. And we're talking about a native tribe that they were familiar with. Because the story is that during times when they were fighting the government wars with the tribes, and the men went out to wage war with the government, with the white man, that they were left up in the mountains with snow, and the Sasquatches would bring deer carcasses and lay them down there. And,
Right, because it's women and children, basically.
that's right. So
Probably the elderly.
So I think that type of Sasquatch was more curious about the humans than the ones that are aggressive and usher you out of their territory.
Well, maybe the nice ones are curious, and the aggressive ones, they know us.
That's true. Well, I think seriously, I think what makes them aggressive is like you get the hunters that go up there and like shoot at them and whatnot, and that's enough to piss anybody off.
Right, and not only that, like I said, if there's young, or like say the clans nearby, they said the ones you see on the outskirts are the scouts.
Yeah, that's
So
the theory.
That's their job, to keep people away from the clan.
Right. Well, because the theory is they hunt at night.
Right.
They do all
Now-
their work at night.
Now, if you got a scout that's way far out, maybe on a hunting party, he might be, he don't have to keep you out of any certain area, so
Right.
maybe he's more curious about watching you.
I get that. I do get that, but that's why I think they're like humans. We have our humans that are pacifists and they
Right.
just want no violence and whatnot, and then you get your knuckleheads that are just
With
totally
the short fuse.
yeah, short fuse, violent, just naturally. Their nature is
Right.
violence.
Right. If they're like us, I'm sure they have
And-
dum-dums.
And well, that's what I'm getting at. You know, even though they may be even part of the same Squatch tribe, I think the personalities hold true, just like humans.
Right.
You may get the one aggressive out there that is pissed off all the time, and although his brother may be kind and a pacifist, this one's aggressive and not so pacifist.
Right.
He's
Now-
malicious.
Yep. Now, I was thinking about our site that we go, our
Right.
spot. Now, I've listened to a lot of other people talk about their encounters, and 99% of them are just luck.
Right.
You know, they catch it on film and don't even know it. But there's some that, like Sasquatch Ontario, like Todd Standing, even Survivor Man. What's his name?
Lee Stroud.
Les Stroud.
Les
yeah.
Stroud.
But I think you'll have your best success if you're out there alone.
You probably will.
Now, as far as me or you going out there to our spot alone, I haven't worked up to that. Now, I've been out there alone at night, but not camping and staying all
Right.
night.
You know, I don't know if I'll ever work up to that, because I know what's out in those woods.
Right.
And
But now that we got a camping trailer, I mean, it's
a little different.
It's a little different. It's a false sense of security because those things are flimsy. You know?
Yeah. And truthfully, I've heard stories where these creatures have ripped those trailers to shreds.
Right. I heard one. It was on Pacquis Bigfoot, another good site on YouTube. He takes people's encounter stories and turns them into a campfire story.
Right.
There was this kid, maybe 19 years old. He got a new job. There's a construction site up in the mountains, and his job was to go stay in a camper during the weekends and, you know, basically watch the equipment. And he was staying in one of those little teardrops.
Oh, okay.
He said the Sasquatch just almost pounded him into the ground.
Holy crap.
Yeah.
Well, I could see that because some of these creatures are just so big. I mean, I've never seen one, but it's the theory that I hear from the sightings people have. They range from anywhere from 8 feet to 12 feet.
You know, you just brought up an interesting point because where I had my encounter, I did see the shadow. I saw the eye shine. It was peeking out of the back of a tree.
Right.
I seen it. But I've never really went to kind of gauge how tall it was. But it's kind of hard because I saw it at night. But maybe the next time we go up there, we could kind of, because I've told you the area where it was. It was right next to our campsite.
Right.
And we could kind of go. Now, the other one walked up, you know, you could catch a glimpse of the shadow, but he was just on that little hill above us.
Well, and
he did not sound friendly.
maybe he wasn't. That's where I'm getting at. What they each have their own personality, just like humans. The female, she may have been cool, calm, and collective, and just wanted to look at the kids and say, "Oh, you know what?"
But why would she scream?
Because she was terrified. She sees them as maybe children from another Squatch tribe, and she says they have no hair.
Maybe.
Oh my God!
But see, that's the thing. I still don't. That night's still crazy to me. Why, if she just wanted to observe, why did she scream? Because, you know, I saw her eye shine, but I didn't really put two and two together.
Right. Well, maybe that's how they attract their young.
Maybe. But like I said, the male, he walked over, he talked. He
Right.
was walking up the hill. I heard him talking. And he stopped and he was shaking a tree and he was yelling at us.
Right. And we'll never know what they're thinking or why they do what they do. All we can have is our theories that are probably flawed and incorrect, but, you know, that's just our guess at things.
Right.
But
Now, before we leave that, I always try to relive that in my mind. I can't forget it. That's
no,
part
you'll never forget.
That's part of it. But we've since we started this podcast, we've done a lot of research and we've learned a lot of things from other people, from our own experiences. And one thing we learned about is, like people say, when a Sasquatch yells at you, you get frozen with fear because is it infrasound?
Infrasound, they say they project infrasound.
Now, that night, I don't remember feeling any infrasound. Nothing. Now, he was yelling, but on hindsight, I think about it, I was so scared. I was sitting there, my whole body was shaking.
Well, and that's another thing. Although it may not have been infrasound, it's just the shock and awe of, am I really hearing and seeing what I think I'm seeing?
But maybe they could project the infrasound with a low rumble.
Well, that's how.
But his was a yell.
Yeah, but infrasound is projected with low rumbles, and because.
So maybe he didn't really project infrasound at me. It was just a yell, and that scared the hell out of me.
That would scare the hell out of me too. That's what I'm saying. It was just the spur of the moment that you heard something that was totally foreign to you,
right?
In the dark.
In my mind, like I said, it didn't process any of it,
right?
Until the next day. Well, actually, we drove down the mountain and nobody slept. We're thinking about it, and even when we went and packed up, I went home. I was laying in bed before I called you, and I was like running through it in my mind, and I still didn't really know what happened.
And you really never will.
Right. No, it took me a while to process it, even before I called you.
Right.
For one, I had to calm down. But you know what I was thinking, since I went through that, and you've heard screams and you felt the truck move and all that, maybe we deserve another stimulus check.
Maybe we do. And we'll take it out there and spend it.
Yeah, that's
Damn it, I'm considered an essential employee. I can't go.
It's research.
Oh, then I can go. I'll just take vacation. How's that?
go.
But, these are just things that we wanted to talk about tonight. As we move along, there are subjects that I do want to delve deeper into.
Right.
But I'm going to have to give them to my brother so that we could both do research and be on topic. But,
Now,
we just rebranded and we just want to get this rolling.
Right. Now, there's a lot of interesting things he's been looking into, and he gives me the information to look into, but I work out of town, so, I there's only I have a window when I could do that.
Yeah.
So, and now that we rebranded, some of you old listeners might hear us repeating old content or referring to old content. And we will do that because we got a lot of new listeners who might not want to go back into 100 Late Night with Larry's.
They don't want to comb 100 episodes and see what we're talking about.
Right.
So we're gonna, for a little bit, we're gonna
For reference.
regurgitate and for reference. But there's some things that I've been looking into, and I think we need to discuss them with our audience. And
Right. And there's some really interesting things that are maybe expand on our topics, but
Yes.
what we usually talk about. But nonetheless, if you're listening to our podcast, you're like-minded like us, so you will like this information that we're going to put out shortly.
That's right. And if you're like-minded like us and you have a story, share it.
Share it. Yes, on the Facebook page, we recently had a new member, and she posted about her friend seeing one, and bring them on.
Yeah.
We'd love to hear that story.
Bring it. We'll keep you anonymous, like we said.
or we'll tell your story.
That's right. We'll do either or. Anyway, that's what we want to share with you tonight. And the next episode, I got to tell my brother what I want to talk about so he could do the research. And it's going to be a little interesting because as I was hearing it, I was thinking to myself, wow, I want to see this.
Right. And not only that, hopefully we're going to get one more trip, at least one more up to the spot
Right.
where we could camp, because in the winter they close it down. So we're hopefully more than one, but we're going to try to get up there.
We're going to try and get one, at least one, because right now it's getting cold. As the sun falls, it's starting to get cold, fall setting in, and I know they're going to lock it up.
Yeah. So we'll see. But
That's right. I'll just give you a hint on what I'm going to divulge to my brother to look into, and it has to do with aliens and contacting them. So it's going to be interesting. Stick
very
around.
Interesting, very interesting.
All right. Anyway, thanks for listening.
Peace.
Peace. Hey, thanks for watching.
We hope all you YouTubers enjoyed the show.
That's right. And don't forget to reach out to us at cryptidcrossroads505@gmail.com.
Peace.
Peace.